Good morning again, ladies and gentlemen. I am Cadet Horsemeyer, your Master of Ceremonies for today's event. Today, the Longhorn Airmen of Detachment 825 honor those who died in the tragic events of September 11th, former prisoners of war, and service members who remain missing in action from previous wars. Finally, we will also celebrate the U.S. Air Force's 66th birthday. Our nation's POW MIA flag was handed off by Arnold Air Society Squadron Commander Cadet Major Lindner and posted by Detachment 825 Cadet Wing Commander Cadet Colonel Haas. Since 1100 yesterday, Arnold Air Society and detachment cadets have run our nation's POW MIA flag throughout the ET campus and the Texas State Capitol as a 24-hour tribute to these courageous service members. Thank you, Cadet Major Lindner and Cadet Colonel Haas. I'd like to next introduce our distinguished speaker, Col Buller. Col Buller graduated from the U.S. Air Force Academy and received his commission in May 1991. He graduated from the Special Tactics Officer Training Pipeline in June 1992. He has commanded 2 Special Tactics Squadrons and led Special Tactics Forces during counter-drug operations in South America, peacekeeping operations in Somalia, and specialized missions during operations to provide comfort, provide promise, enduring freedom, and Iraqi freedom. He currently commands the 720th Special Tactics Group in Kirkwood Field, Florida. He has been awarded the Defense Superior Medal, the Bronze Star Medal with 3 oak clusters, and the Defense Meritorious Service Medal, among many others. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Col Buller.
So truth be told, the way it works is you write your own bio. So I'm not sure, you just gotta trust me that I'm a swell guy. Okay. What I like about my bio is it makes me look a lot taller than I really am. So thanks for hearing out my bio. Colonel Staha, thanks for inviting me out here to speak and spend some time with your scouting. I'm certainly grateful for. Before I get into the topic today of leadership, let me just talk a little bit about what you guys have been doing the last 24 hours, keeping the POW MIA flag movement. So I've got one of those very same flags tacked up in my backyard, up on my shed. Okay, so it's out there. And man, I got a really large backyard. I got my oldest boy is 12, my youngest boy is 10, Brock. Drew's 12, Brock's 10, and that's what we play, man. That's our playground. We play any sport imaginable. We're out there kind of hammering away. And I got that up as a reminder to myself that we won't forget, and also anybody that comes over, they know that the family hasn't forgotten, right? So about a few weeks ago, we got a coupon in the mail for free skins. Man, I didn't know what it was, but I learned that that's how you personalize your laptop. Like you go and get the skins and you put it on there. The boys asked if they could put it on mine. I said no, but you can put it on your mom's. So they went and got on the internet, and the drill was really just to see if Drew and Brock could compromise and pick one. And then their mom didn't care, man. Whatever it is, just put it on the laptop, and man, the whole thing is pretty cool. So I'm sitting, kind of doing something else in the room, in the computer room, and they're working on it. And Drew goes, "Hey Dad, there's one. What's up?" He goes, "There's your Palmia flag." And I go, "My what?" He goes, "Your Palmia flag." And I look over at it. It's the POW MIA flag. And instantly, I realized I let my boys down with what I was trying to do. Like the whole purpose that we have that flag is that we can talk about our prisoners of war and those that haven't come home yet. And I didn't even do it with my own sons. So it offered me the opportunity to reconcile that. So he now knows it's not the Palmia flag. They have a better sense. They don't clearly understand the depth of it, but they now recognize why the Buller family has that in the backyard. So, man, let's not forget. And then, man, Specialist Bergdahl is being held right now in Pakistan, most likely by the Haqqani Network, that we still got a dude out there that wants to come home, his teammates want him to come home, and his family wants him to come home. So I appreciate what you guys did for the last 24 hours, reminding yourself and reminding everybody on the University of Texas campus. So my compliments to you. Okay, so the task that I was asked to do by Colonel Staha was to come talk to you about leadership. Now that, man, left and right limits are wide open. I could talk about anything that I wanted to, man. I could come in here and I could lay out the doctrine of leadership, the different ones that are out there, and see what you think about it or not. Man, I could choose great figures in history and drill down on them and talk about what they did right, what they did wrong. Because the best figures are the ones that critique themselves, so we can learn from them. Man, there's a lot of places that you can go and look for leadership and talk about leadership. I'm convinced you can find it anywhere, man, if you look for it. So to prove my theory, I decided I'm going to talk to you about what I've learned from a snorkel. This is to prove my theory that you can find leadership anywhere. I'm going to tell you what I learned from a snorkel. Now it's shaped like an L. At the end you can say it's leadership, or if you don't like my story, maybe you'll call me something else. Just keep it to yourself, I'm sensitive. Let me tell you what I learned from a snorkel, okay? So I've gone through combat diver training as a special tactics officer. In fact, Colonel Staha and I went through a lot of this training together. The first time I was introduced to it, though, was during my combat control pararescue indoctrination course. And it's one of the tasks that we have to do in the pool. And it's designed, the reason why we do underwater confidence isn't to see how long you can hold your breath or to see if you're going to make a good combat scuba diver. What they want to do is see how you react when your oxygen is gone. Like, they want to break the man down as quickly as possible and see what type of person you are. Are you a selfish person that's going to get your air? Or are you a selfless person that's going to stay on task no matter the pain that you and your teammates going through? That's why we do water confidence, is to get to the essence of a man within just a few minutes. So one of the drills that we do is called buddy breathing. 2 people share 1 snorkel. Okay? So let me just kind of tell you, and then you go face down in the water and you just share a snorkel, man. I take a breath, you take a breath. I take a breath, you take a breath. Sounds pretty easy. The way it's designed now is you and your teammate, your swim buddy, man, you lock hands like it's no tomorrow. Because when you're out there in dark seas, if you only got one source of air, you can't get separated. You make eye contact with your swim buddy the entire time. Now, you can't talk underwater, but that doesn't mean you can't communicate. When you talk to your teammate, no matter what it is in life, you can look them in the eyes and you can see if they're in distress or not. You can see if they're making wise decisions or if they need help. So you make eye contact with them the entire time. Both of us hold on to the snorkel. Man, it's a 50-50 deal. Like, man, I get half the air, so I got half the responsibility. One guy doesn't get to make all the decisions, and one guy doesn't just get to float there like dead weight and expect his swim buddy to carry him. It's a 50-50 deal. And then you just go back and forth with the snorkel. Okay, now what they do, though, we call them the sharks, the cadre, that have to increase the stress to get to the essence of the man, is they'll start to make it tougher on you. They'll make the white water all around you, so the bubbles get up your nose. They'll pull the mask off and put it in front of your mouth to see how you're going to get it down, and you see that your buddy comes over and moves the mask for you so that you can take a breath. They'll spin you around, they'll drive you down the whole time, and you get it to the buddy. You get it to your buddy. That blowing sound is clearing the water out because I'm passing the snorkel back and forth. Okay, so as the drill's going, man, if you were to watch it on the surface, imagine just this churn of white water. Asshole and elbows, the instructors got fins so that they can get traction and push you down. Man, it's just constant stress, man. It's like nothing you ever see. Just sharks eating us alive. And every now and then you see the snorkel come out. And then they go back down. They come up, man, they steal air. They go back down. They come up, they steal air. And then in the white water, and you got to do it for 3 minutes. Now there's different ways to play the game, if that's what you want, if you want to describe it as that. Okay, one technique is to just take the snorkel. It's an option. You got all the air. Let go of your buddy when you got it, and you can cut him away. Now that's not you guys. That's why you're in the ROTC program. But there's people out there on this campus that are swimming amongst you that will just take the snorkel from you. Man, get them out of your life. Get those influences out of your life because you don't need them. And then there's most of us that will play the game. And we'll play it right, we'll play it righteous until the pain really builds up. What it is you got too much CO2, not enough oxygen in your system, and it starts to burn. And you do that, and then most of us will just come up and get a breath and quit. Most of us won't take the snorkel because we realize we're letting our buddy down, but we'll just tap out and quit and not achieve the mission, not get to the end of the drill. So you got to work on that. That's why that's most of us. That's why it's such a hard drill, is you got to fight to stay underwater. to go further than you think you can, because I promise you your body can handle it if your mind just lets it. And that's life. That's happening to you every day too. You'll go further if your mind just lets you. And then there's a few of us amongst us that are just naturally gifted at playing, man. They're good with their air. They want you to take breaths. Those are the ones that have the servant's heart. And those are the ones we want to aspire to be like. But let me unpack it for you a little bit more. Because let me tell you what's going on underwater. Well, on the surface, you just see the snorkel coming out every now and then. Let me tell you what's really going on underwater. The whole drill, the essence of the drill, is to get your buddy the snorkel. That's my sole purpose. And if I chose the right swim buddy, because I cut away the distractions in my life, if I chose the right swim buddy, his whole purpose is to get me the snorkel. And when you got two guys like that support each other, man, it is poetry in motion. So while they are pushing us down underwater, what's really happening, they push me down, I'm looking at my teammate, I realize that it's his turn for a breath, I go all the way down to the bottom of the pool, and then I push up as hard as I can. I plow right through the sharks if they're in our way, so that I can get him to the surface. And then he comes out of the water, he gets his breath, he rocks backwards, and he pulls me up with all of his energy to get me the breath now. Because it's my turn. And if they steal the breath from me, he sees it. So he goes back down and he rocks me up again. And he keeps sacrificing his own air until his buddy gets a breath. And then once that happens, man, the game changes, and now the whole goal is to get him his breath. And to sacrifice my own needs, my own desires for my teammate. And man, when it's happening, it is really cool. It's hard as hell. And that's why that servant's heart is what it teaches you. Because you don't figure it out until you realize it's all about your buddy. And then in college, man, you got to realize that you got to be surrounded by buddies that you can trust, that think the same way that you do. That's why you guys are in this commissioning source, is you want to be surrounded by folks like that. You got to decide which one you are. If you're the guy that's going to take the snorkel, man, we're going to figure it out and we're going to cut you. But I think you already aren't that guy. You may be the one that's got to learn to fight through the pain and think of the others first. That's most of us. And then if you're just the natural one that's got the servant's heart, we're all drawn to you. So don't shy away from that responsibility, because we want to be like you. We want to learn from you. We want to swim around you, because we know you're going to help us out when we're in distress. And there's a lot of distress around this place. So let me tell you about one of my swim buddies. Captain Vinny Savino was my team leader going through this indoctrination course, this really hard course. He was my team leader. He was really good in the water. We started off with 81 guys. By the 8th week of the training, there was 8 of us left. And in the water, I was clearly number 8 out of 8. I was the guy that was just holding on all these water confidence drills. I was solid on land. I did more than my share of the task on all the land events, but in the water, man, I was leaning on my teammates to get me through. So the night before our final eval, week 8 eval, go, no-go event, Captain Savino and I are sitting in our room. It's a 2-man room. We're sitting on the floor and we're drinking our energy shakes, our high-calorie shakes. This was 1991. Man, I think the brand was at Seed. I don't even know if they're still in business now, man. But it's what we had. We had powder, man. We make our shakes. We'd sit, man, it's about 7 o'clock at night. We drink our shakes and go to bed at 7:30 or 8 because we had 3:30 shows every morning. And we're just sitting there, just kind of chilling, man. Just kind of decompressing. And he says, hey, tomorrow, during buddy briefing, he says, if they pair us up, take as many breaths as you need. And I go, what? He goes, if they pair us up, I don't care what you do, just don't come up. Take as many breaths as you need. I'm like, yeah, man, whatever. There's 8 of us. They probably weren't going to pair up the 2 officers anyway. So I got it. We finish our shake, we go to bed. The next morning, the 8 of us are sitting along the edge of the pool. We're in our Speedos. Man, back then I rocked a Speedo, man. You probably don't want to envision it. You definitely don't want to see Colonel Stein. But we're all sitting there in our Speedos. Buller, Savino, enter the water. So we pop in the water. Colonel Savino grabs his snorkel. And as we're swimming out into the center of the pool, he winks at me. So man, we're on the verge of a go, no-go graduation event. We're about to get our asses handed to us for 3 minutes, and Captain Savino winks at me. It was just reminding me, hey man, whatever you do, don't come up. So they start strapping on. So they let us get in a rhythm. We get our heart race down, we get our rhythm going, and then they start the clock, and they just start hammering us, man. And then they just keep hammering us, turning us around. It's the guppy noise that we make underwater to try to buy ourselves a little bit more time. And it's both of us, man. They are just strapping it on us like there's no tomorrow, man. Like the edges of my vision start to shade up because there's not enough oxygen going through my system. I get it. Man, I took a second breath. I get it back to him. I got it back. I got my vision back. I'm still in the game. Man, we're going. I tell you, being underwater is a strange phenomenon. You don't know if it's 2 minutes or if it's 20 minutes. You just know it's a really long time. And it's just going, man. Time! Buller, Savino, you guys are a go. Get out of the pool. So, let me tell you what Captain Savino did, man. As a swim buddy, as a wingman, whatever your vernacular is, man, he trusted me. He took professional risk for a buddy. Because what I could have done was taken at it for a license to speed, and I could have been sucking on that snorkel the whole time, at his detriment. But he knew that I wouldn't do that to him. That's trust. That's intimacy. But he also knew that if I graduated this class, his team would be stronger with me than without me. And as my leader, as my commander, he wanted to get me through. He's not going to commit an immoral act. There was no rule that said you can't have 2 breaths. So don't get displaced on what it takes to get somebody through. It was a virtuous act, but it was an act of faith from a swim buddy that he trusted. Man, I wouldn't be here if Captain Savino wouldn't have given me those 2 extra breaths. That's pretty cool. That's leadership. And that's life, man. That's life. That's what I learned from a swimmer. What kind of questions do you guys got? About anything. All right, let me ask you a question about great historical figures. Because I spent a lot of time reading. As a professional officer, you got to spend a lot of time reading. Like, when you leave this place, you don't get to stop learning. The Army has a saying: 1 foot in the classroom, 1 foot in the battlefield. I didn't realize it until I went to Leavenworth for Command and General Staff College how well read the Army officers were versus Air Force officers. Well, I would sit there, so this is my major's PME. Man, I've been swinging away hard, guys. I was working hard like nobody's business. I get in there with a bunch of Army majors in a staff college, and they start asking questions. And these guys are recounting historic battles or historical figures from books that they've read. And I'm like, man, where the hell did you get that from? And I tried to figure out where they had time to read. Well, I don't know, but they figured it out. And I've spent a career catching up with them since then. So I'm telling you, read from Jump Street. Read your fiction, if that's what makes you happy. That's okay, because it teaches you to innovate. But you got to read some history too. You got to have the historic mind. You got to see the decisions that great men and women before us made, and you got to see their mistakes so that we can learn from them. So you guys give me an example of somebody that you read or that you want to read. Come on, who's going to do it? Yeah, please.
Robert E. Lee.
Okay, what do you want to learn from Robert E. Lee, man?
He was an engineer. He's one of America's best generals.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. If you read the history of the Arlington National Cemetery, you'll be fascinated that it's built on his mansion, and that the Union Army, the North, took that land from his wife, and they built a cemetery on it, and they purposely buried Union soldiers as close to the cemetery as they possibly could, in case it was a short war, that Lees would never want to go back and move back in there again. That was their method of making sure they held on to the Arlington National Cemetery. Yeah, you can learn a lot from General Robbie Lee. Think of the dilemma that he was faced with for a guy that loved his country, and then the country split. He fought against his bros from West Point. Imagine if Texas wanted to secede. I gotta be careful there, because you sons of bitches might actually want to do that. some of you would fight with me, and then I'd have to fight again. But imagine that dilemma, man. Like, that's what he was faced with. Yeah, he was a great man. Yeah, you got to study. And he clearly made some mistakes. He made a lot of mistakes. He didn't hold his cavalryman, Jeb Stuart. He didn't hold him to task. And because of that, man, he didn't have the eyes on Gettysburg. He lost the good ground. And, man, ultimately, some would say he lost the campaign because of it. All right, what else, guys? Who else you want to study? Yeah, what you got?
I started about Colonel Hal Moore this summer and in the Adrian Valley.
Yeah.
And his leadership style with being able to not be so detail-oriented and trust his men to take in the situation at the same time. Tell his superiors they wouldn't even come back in the middle of the battle and be like, no, I got you, come in.
Yeah, that's right. We were soldiers once and young. How many folks have read it? Okay, that's it? What class did you study in?
I just read it.
You okay? We're right on. That's what you got to do. We were soldiers once and young. They made the movie about it. The movie. How many people saw the movie? Okay, you should go see it because it does a pretty good job. If you don't have time to read the dense book like you do, like you don't have a lot of time in college, then go pick movies that follow it pretty closely. And We Were Soldiers Once and Young follows it pretty closely. The dilemmas he had in the Yadrang Valley, where he pushed platoons out, knowing that they might not get recovered, but it's what he had to do to hold on to the HLZ that he needed, which was his lifeline. And the dilemmas that he faced in combat. Now, most of us aren't going to command a platoon in combat in the Air Force the way he did in the Yadrang Valley. But there are a ton of leadership lessons that you can learn from him that cross over to everything that we do. In fact, he spends a lot of time talking from his wife's perspective about having to do family notifications of when they lost folks. And I'm telling you, we've both had to do that. Colonel Staha and I have both had to go talk to families and knock on the door in service dress and let them know that their husband or their son isn't coming home. And if you want to think through what that's going to be like, man, you go learn it from somebody that's done it. All right, what else? Yeah, go ahead.
World War II veteran Major Dick Winters.
Okay, tell me about it.
I found it interesting how the effectiveness of his company and battalion increased in morale due to his leadership experience.
Okay, what was the book?
Band of Brothers.
Okay, yeah, shit. I should have known that. Sorry. I watched the 10 episodes movie. I didn't read the book. It didn't stick with me the name. Okay, what else, guys? Yeah.
So it's Colonel Bolsey wrote a book, Strength, Success, Only Failure. It's more a recent book about how to come into your command as a younger officer and basically share the successes that you bring your battalion.
Yeah, right.
And also, or bring your fight, and also the owning the failure whenever anything in your chain of command happens and that stuff. That's how that ultimately ends.
Okay, yeah, right on. So there's a book out there by Pete Glaber called The Men, the Mission, and Me. He was a Delta Troop commander, and like what he talks about, and it's really simplistic patterns of leadership. And like, man, what I would encourage you to do is to look for the simplicity in the situations and find out what the patterns are there. Because you're already starting to understand them. Like you guys are savvy, intellectual young men and women that are seeing more and more of the world than you did when you were in high school. And now you're going to start connecting the dots, and you see patterns replicate themselves. Like you thought you had high school doped out, right? You know who the cool kids were. You know who this group was. You had this group. You know what teachers did this. Like you had it all kind of figured out. And now you come to this campus, and on a much larger scale, you got to reset and try to understand your environment. Well, there's patterns there that apply. Most of them are the same patterns that you learned in high school. And then you're going to go to your first commissioning, your first job, and you're going to start all over again. And you're going to re-dope those patterns. When I use the term dope, we dope in our sights on our rifle. We get them straight. Okay? So I get accurate on what I'm aiming at. So you got to dope in your environment. Okay? You got to see where the windage is when you shoot. Like that's all understanding your environment. And that's what you guys got to do. You guys are doing it right now. What I want you to do is to realize it, see the patterns that are there, and to work on it. All right, what other questions are on your mind? Okay, let me tell you about a staff sergeant that I work with. His name is John Baradat. He's with the 21st Special Tactics Squadron. Let me tell you about a mission, because you guys always want missions, man. You want to hear the cool story. You don't want to hear about my snorkel, my beat-ass snorkel. Okay? So let me tell you about Sergeant Baradat. He just came back from Afghanistan. He was in the Konar Valley. That's north and east Afghanistan. Really rugged terrain, canalized terrain. It means that when you get in the valley, you're stuck in the valley. Much like Gettysburg, the good ground's all around you. Okay, so on this certain mission, he's about 3 months into a 5-month deployment. They get a call as a QRF. He's assigned to an Afghan National Army unit, and what they're doing is they're trying to buy time and space in the Konar Valley to connect the government with the government of Afghanistan. Like that's his mission. He goes out on patrols with the Afghan National Army, and when the Taliban shows themselves and the Afghan National Army gets in a gunfight with them, we bring air power to bear. Like that's what his mission is out there. He's attached to a special forces team, 12 dudes-ish, and that's the job, okay? That's kind of the laydown. This morning he gets a call that there's a team that's trapped in the valley, another American team that's doing a different mission, and they need support. So the Quick Reaction Force gets called in, they're in. So they go, they hop in their vehicles, they've got armored all-terrain vehicles. So it's mine resistance. They're not the big MRAPs, they're a little bit smaller. Okay, you can fit about 6 people in them. They still got the V-hole, they got a lot of armor, so that when the roadside bomb goes off, it displaces the impact. And even though it's still going to rock your world, man, it may not be fatal. Just depends on the size of the impact. They hop in 4 of these vehicles and they go cruising up the Konar Valley. They get to where the terrain's so canalized, they got to dismount, and they got about 4 clicks that they got to walk into, and they can hear the gunfight, man. So they dismount, they're running up towards the sound of this gunfight, and they get about a click 1,000 meters away, and they get pinned down, so they move into a compound. And as always, combat controllers, we go to the roof, because we got to have vantage point, we got to talk to airplanes, we got to start dropping bombs. So he gets up there, and because the terrain is so steep, that the only time he can talk to the A-10s is when they're directly overhead, as they're doing this orbit. So he has poor comms. Everybody has poor comms in the valley, because the valley makes communication so difficult. It is almost the worst nightmare you can have. 2 teams pinned down by the Taliban. The Taliban is all up in the high grounds, shooting down into us, and our decisive advantage, the air component, can't be brought to bear. So he climbs up on this tower, exposes himself to fire, and he makes comms with the A-10. His team sergeant, Special Forces team sergeant, a master sergeant, an E8 in the Army, is losing his mind. He's like, Baradat, man, get the fuck down here, because he's going to get shot. And Baradat ignores him. So he gets up on the radio, Hog 3-1, Jag 4-4, advise rating 9 line, over. And the A-10 mission commander, the major, that had been up there for about 40 minutes, said as soon as that call came through my radio, I was now able to affect the change of the fight on the ground. Up to that point, all he could do was look at us about 15,000 feet above and couldn't do anything because he didn't know what to shoot, because he couldn't make heads or tails out of anything. So one young staff sergeant exposes himself to fire, makes comms, and starts dealing. And then once we start dropping bombs, man, it starts to turn in our favor because we're the air component, and we can be decisive when used properly. And that's what Sergeant Baradat did that day. So he beat back the enemy that was shooting on him, that allowed his team to regroup on the ground, and then to press forward and go link up with the other forces, who had 1 American KIA. They had a whole slew of Afghans that were killed and wounded as well. But they fought their way into the valley. Meanwhile, another SF team came in from the north side of the valley, so they had some vehicles. They load him up on vehicles, and as if his heroism wasn't enough for the day, every time he climbed into the armored vehicle, he lost comms with the A-10s that were overhead. Because the armor is so thick and the terrain was so bad, it was eating up his signals. So he hopped on, so on the outside they got these running boards. He stood on the outside of the running board. His team sergeant held his web gear so that he wouldn't fall off, and they go charging out of the valley while Sergeant Baradat's standing out there talking to the airplanes, and now they got AC-130s overhead, and he's calling fires as they're going. Now, if you're Taliban, and you're sitting up there, and you're watching these vehicles, goes, what are you shooting at? The dude hanging on the side of the vehicle. Man, this vehicle was catching rounds all day long, and he never once asked to get in. In fact, the terrain was so canalized at some points that he had to lean back like this, and the rock was scraping his helmet. He didn't tell me any of this. His team sergeant had to write it all up. The Special Forces team sergeant had to write it all up. He's got a Silver Star Award that's on the desk of the Secretary of the Air Force right now, which we expect to get approved here in the next month or so. Staff's on Baradat. You guys got any other questions? Anything on your mind? Yeah.
So I saw briefly in your bio about the checkmate. I was just wondering if you could kind of explain
Yeah, sure.
what that was.
Yeah, good. Thanks for asking. So I had to go to the air staff. Nobody wants to go to the air staff, by the way. Okay? But we do what we're told to do. And you need folks to go to the air staff, and they got to do really good work. Because if the air staff gets it right, it buys the maneuver units out there time and space and resources to do their missions. So it's my time. This is, I think, at the 19-year point man, I get assigned to go to the air staff for 2 years to this organization called Checkmate. Checkmate, their task is to advise the Chief of Staff of the Air Force on the current fight or the one that's right around the corner. So if I was at Checkmate right now, we'd be talking to him incessantly about Syria, how to deal with the challenges of Syria, what the Air Force and the air component can do in Syria. So back then, man, we were working Libya, man, we're constantly working Iran, we're constantly working North Korea. Those are the types of things that we did in Checkmate. And what we do is we prep the chief before he goes into the tank. The tank is it's a really small steel room that the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff gets together with all the service chiefs, with a couple representatives from the Office of the Secretary of Defense, and then some theater leadership, we call them COCOMs, combatant commands. The leadership from overseas, they either VTC in, like teleconference in, or they come and sit in depending on if they need to be there or not, and they hammer away at the toughest problems. And in Checkmate, you get to backbench. You get to sit behind the chief. So just like when you see on C-SPAN when the congressman turns back and wants something, the expert behind him gets to whisper in his ear. That's what we got to do in Checkmate. So we got to hear policy being made at the highest level. It was really insightful. Like, I learned a lot. I went there thinking I had the Air Force down pat. I understood it. After 19 years, man, I learned the essence of the Air Force while I was there, aside from her airmen. Because there's no doubt that the airman is the essence of the Air Force. But what I learned while I was there that I didn't know before is that the Air Force gets assigned the hardest targets. So when we're in the tank, man, they turn to the chief and say, what can you do about the nuclear reactor in Natanz, Iran? Man, he doesn't ask the Army, he doesn't ask the Navy. What do we do about North Korea's weapons, nuclear weapons? Either their program or their aspirations. Man, he didn't ask the Army, he didn't ask the Navy, he didn't ask the Marines. He asked the Chief of Staff of the Air Force. So what I learned is that the targets that we hold at risk fundamentally change the calculus of all players, of our adversaries, of our allies, and of those that aren't sure which way they want to go. But if they want to join winners, then they're probably going to come our way because of the qualitative edge that the Air Force holds, that we enjoy right now. We enjoy it because men and women before you went out there and figured out how to get the technological edge, and then men and women before you figured out how to exploit it. Either intellectual, physical courage, whatever it was, man, we figured out how to put this capability together. So an example is the B-2, man. The B-2 is badass. It takes off, it does some cloaking bullshit like the USS Enterprise does with the Star Trek. The thing disappears, man, it shows up, it drops some bombs, and it comes home 40 hours later. Like, that fundamentally changes the calculus of nations out there because they don't know when it's coming. Like, that's what the Air Force does. But let me tell you about it, special operations, because that's what I've done for a living. Because I've also learned in special operations, we also get the hard targets. And ours has different consequences. Because if you use the B-2 as an example, or launch an intercontinental ballistic missiles off the coast, well, in some ways, the narrative doesn't play so well on the world stage. So if we were to go in there and shack Iran, North Korea, man, you name the jackass of the day. Okay? We go in there, man, that guy could say, see, that's exactly why I need a nuclear weapons capability. Because I was attacked by a nuclear world power unprovoked. That's the narrative that they're going to play. Whether you believe it or not, that's the narrative. The citizens of this country that might have realized he's a jackass, that are looking for change, now have no choice but to band around them for nationalistic reasons. Man, they were attacked. That brings people together. So that's the consequences of using this qualitative advantage, the technological advantage. Sometimes it's right, but it's got to be applied judiciously. Well, they got other tools too. They got men and women that will go into their backyard. Because they'll say, the U.S. fights like cowards, man. 40,000 feet, or they sit back and launch their missiles. But when our special operations team, enabled by the Air Force, open up the airspace and we slip in the back of their yard, clandestinely, we execute a mission with surgical effects, and we come back out, man, the whole narrative is different. Now we fought with courage, and those same citizens that banded around the dictator is now pissed off, man, because he wasn't able to provide security for them. Like, he actually let the Americans come into their country and walk around on the ground. Man, this dude's got to go. And the adversaries are scared as hell of that. Of forces like our Special Operations Forces, Air Force Special Operations Forces, Navy, Army, Marines. We scare the hell out of them. For us, the qualitative advantages are people. It's because we were born free. So we're dangerous like that. Because we're willing to fight for it. And we scare the hell out of them. So you guys remember that, man. What the Air Force does, whether it's conventional, big blue, which is badass, whether it's special operations, more surgical, which is badass, or even if you don't get commissioned and you go serve somewhere else, just serve in a manner that gives the president options. So when he deals with our greatest dilemmas, man, he knows that he's got some tools that he can call on. I met a young man yesterday walking around campus who's going to go serve in the State Department. He's going to be a foreign affairs officer. That's exactly what we need, man. I'll scare him with the hammer. We'll scare him with the hammer. We'll let the State Department come in and talk to him. If they don't like how the conversation's going, we'll just hammer them a little bit more. Fundamentally changes the conversation, which keeps us a little bit safer here. I told you I got 2 boys. Drew's 12 and Brock's 10. I don't know if they'll join the Air Force. If they do, it'll be their choice. If they choose to fight, I certainly won't pressure them to it. But if they do fight, I don't want them to fight my enemy. What we're doing in Afghanistan, the men and women that we fought in Iraq, the folks that are trying to hijack Syria, I don't want them to have to fight those guys. That's my fight, and it's soon to be your fight. So you got about 10 more years head start before Drew's got to decide if he's going to fight or not. So I need you to win that son of a bitch.